Hello, and welcome to the third episode of the Diz ASMR. I'm your host, Jess, and today we're going to be talking about my top 10 must-dos at Epcot. So, today in this episode, I just wanted to go over some things that I personally love at Epcot, not necessarily things that everyone loves to do or enjoy. And there may be certain things that you and your family like to do over some of these, but these are my top 10. And some of these may make you laugh a little bit since I kind of bent the rule, especially on number 10 here, as you will see. But these are just some things that I have to do when I go to Epcot. So starting with number 10, this is the one where I stretch it just a little bit here. And this is eat lots of food. Now, it's kind of a given when you go to Epcot that you are more than likely going to be eating a lot of food, especially if you are there for any sort of festival, especially food and wine, which I personally love. Yes, it is very expensive, but I always find something that I absolutely fall in love with. And a lot of times it is not there for the next year, which is always a bummer for me, but I absolutely love the food at Epcot. And one of my favorite lands to eat is in the France Pavilion there. Just the different sandwich options you can get, dessert. You can also have wine, champagne with it. And so I'm really looking forward to the new creperie that is coming, hopefully very soon. We are still under quarantine. It is still closed at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to checking out that new creperie back there in the France Pavilion once it opens. And speaking of this still, my favorite food, like I just said, is in the France Pavilion, but my favorite drink to get is actually in the Mexico Pavilion at that margarita stand. Now, what's interesting is I am not a big margarita person. When I go to a Mexican restaurant, I'm not really one that gravitates always to a margarita, maybe once in a while, but that margarita stand, that new one that they just opened, and they have frozen margaritas there, and you can get the mix. I believe it's mango, strawberry, maybe pineapple. I'm not sure what that other one is. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I absolutely love that margarita stand. It's very refreshing, especially on a hot day, walking around, but be careful with it if you haven't eaten a lot because once that heat hits you and that large margarita, make sure you get a snack with that. And that margarita stand actually has great bites as well. Their chips and their guacamole, absolutely wonderful. So yeah, my 10th thing to do at Epcot is eat lots of food. I'll sneak in there and drink as well. So my number 9 thing is over in the Land Pavilion, and that is living with the land. Now, this ride may be just a little slow for some individuals, maybe boring for ones, especially ones who are looking for more of a thrilling ride. But I personally love the land. I love just the ambiance that it provides, the relaxation. You get to board this boat. It's nice and slow. It's absolutely wonderful after a large meal, in my opinion. You get to go relax for a while. And just the different elements that you get to see, the different animatronics, first of all, in the rainforest and different things like that. I absolutely love the house as well there. In living with the land, I feel like that is such a cool feature. And too, that you get to look up there at the garden grill, see those eating, which I always thought was a lot of fun. And then personally, I love anything to do with growing your own fruits, your own vegetables. So personally, I love when you go into the greenhouse and you see them making the food right there that you may be able to be served at one of the restaurants there in the land. So I personally love living with the land. I understand that it is sometimes not people's must do, but I personally really enjoy it. So that was my number 9. Now, my number 8 spot may surprise you that it's all the way back here at number 8, but mine is actually Test Track. Now, don't get me wrong, I do really, really like Test Track. I think it is very fun. Granted, I kinda liked the older version a little bit better, so I think that's why it's my number 8th spot. I think if it would have, still kept to the original, it would have been higher up on my list, but I do really enjoy, Test Track there, and, sometimes, though, I just kinda feel like it's a little out of the way. That wait time can get very, very long at different times. So I do recommend trying to do single rider if you can, because in all honesty, too, how often are you going to be talking to your friend when you are going that fast and your hair's all blowing in the wind and going crazy? So, my personal opinion is just jump in that single rider line if you really want to go on Test Track. So, that was my number 8 spot. My number 7 spot is also a little bit more relaxed, like how Living with the Land was. This is not a thrill like how Test Track was, but that is the three Caballeros over there in the Mexico Pavilion. Now, there's many different reasons why I love the three Caballeros as much as I do. So, I the Mexico Pavilion, excuse me, the Mexico Pavilion is my favorite pavilion just for the fact of you get to walk into that Mayan temple, and no matter if it was midday outside, the scorching heat, it is so hot that Florida summer, you walk into the Mexico Pavilion, it is cool and at night in Mexico. And I just love different things like that. Like I talked about in the last podcast in regards to the Magic Kingdom and pirates, where it doesn't matter what is happening outside, how hot, humid it may be, even raining. It really transforms you. And that's what the Mexico Pavilion does for me. It is so beautiful inside there. It's very authentic to Mexico as well, having those little stands there of certain individuals, maybe doing some art, selling some pieces there. So I really enjoy that. And then I also enjoy too getting to see the different individuals with that open restaurant there at San Angel Inn, and I personally am not a huge fan of that restaurant. I do not think that the food is worth it. You can get much better food throughout Epcot, so I personally don't eat there, but I really enjoy getting on this ride, sitting back, and from the water being able to see the certain individuals that are eating in the restaurant. I love when they wave back at you, that interaction there, seeing them enjoy their day at the parks, and then throughout the ride, just listening to the story of Donald. And I absolutely love the little octopus that is on this ride too. If you can find him and if you know who I'm talking about, leave a comment below. So, yes, the three Caballeros is my number 7. Now, my number 6 is actually a restaurant that is one of my favorite things to do at Epcot. And I kind of spoke about this already a little bit, and that is the Garden Grill over in the land. Now, we just started to do this, I would say within the last, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, where we would get the earliest reservation that we possibly could at the Garden Grill. and just really start out our day on a good note. It's so much fun. I absolutely love their breakfast. If you can get breakfast, I'd really recommend it. Plus, two, if you have children who enjoy meeting the characters, you have Mickey, you have Pluto, and you have Chip and Dale. And what's so fun about them too is they are in their farmer's outfit because they're in the land pavilion there, close to living with the land where they actually grow the food. So Mickey has his overalls on, which I absolutely love. And that food is to die for. It is so, so good. It is a buffet style, a family buffet style, where they actually bring it to your table. So no worries on having to get up, dad watch the kids while mom goes gets the food, vice versa. None of that. They just keep bringing you out what you would like in skillets. And what's nice too is depending on what exactly you want for your second, even third skillet, you can just specifically ask for certain things. They don't have to bring you out a whole tray, especially if you know that you are not going to be eating certain items again. So I really, really recommend the Garden Grill. I've been there multiple times now, and I have nothing but amazing things to say about this. Plus, two, like I talked about with the ride Living with the Land, you get to look down from the Garden Grill and see individuals on the ride. You get to see the rainforest, you get to see that house, and you actually have a better perspective of looking into the house on that top window there, kind of peeking into that bedroom there. So, really, really fun things there to see at the Garden Grill. So, my number five here at Epcot may be a little controversial, and that is the Figment ride, Journey into Imagination with Figment. Now, I personally love Figment, and I will have to say, I never was on the original Figment, which I know must be shocking to certain individuals that I actually like this version of Figment, and I'm not one of the ones who likes Figment because of the original version. I personally think that the Figment ride, while granted isn't the most updated and the most technological advance, I guess you could say, I enjoy it because of just how whimsical it is, how fun it is, how positive it is, colorful. I don't know, it just puts me in a really, really good mood whenever I go on Figment there. Now, granted, by all the things that I hear about the original version of Figment, I would absolutely have loved to go on that version. But there have been talks here and there about updating it eventually. So I hope they do that. Maybe bring back the Dreamfinder because I would absolutely love to see him. I have heard some things about maybe that turning into an Inside Out ride. Now, because Figment is so popular, especially lately, it seems within the last couple years, Figment is making a comeback, especially at the art festival. He seems to be the mascot. He is everywhere for the art festival. I'd be very surprised if they took out his ride there, but you never know. So I guess only time will tell. So that was my number five. My number four is actually the Nemo ride. I think that the Nemo ride is so much fun. Now, granted, there is a part in this ride where I have some trouble that I actually personally have to close my eyes. Not from being scared, don't worry, it's not Bruce who scares me. It is actually that tunnel where you get to go see Crush and Squirt, which is so much fun. But that tunnel makes me a little nauseous, so I have to close my eyes during that time. But the rest of that ride, I absolutely adore. And what's funny about this ride too is I think I personally like the queue or the line just as much as I like the ride. And that is because I really enjoy how it takes you also from outside. You are with the seagulls. You are supposed to be kind of on the beach. You walk inside. You still get that beach vibe there with the sand and that seagrass that's there in the first part of the queue. And as you keep walking back, if you notice, now it's starting to get a little bit darker. It's getting a little bit cooler. And then now all of a sudden you realize there's coral next to you, there's a boat above you. So now you are being transformed down into the sea slowly. And I just think that that is so immersive. I love the relaxed nature of this queue. And just also, first of all, the air conditioning here is absolutely amazing, but just also the ambiance here, you really feel immersed and personally very relaxed. I absolutely love this. And then, of course, you get into your clamshell in order to go and see if you can find Nemo. So, yes, absolutely love that ride as well. And especially, too, that it opens up into an area where your children can run around, they can go see Bruce in a way where they can run up to him, get your picture taken with him, and then also go and get to talk to Crush, which is really, really fun, very interactive. But my favorite part about this is actually the manatees there. Manatees are my favorite animal, and so getting to see these rehabilitated manatees is just rehabilitated, excuse me, rehabilitated manatees is just so nice to see. So I really enjoy that as well. So now we are getting into my top three. And my third here is Frozen. Now, I absolutely love Frozen. Here's another ride where I absolutely love the queue and may love the queue just as much, if not more, than the actual ride in itself. Now, this one I exceptionally love because it is in the Norway Pavilion, and I am half Norwegian. So I probably have just a little bit of a soft spot there for it because of that. But I do love how you are supposed to be in the village of Arendelle there while you are walking throughout the queue. You can see the different houses around, and then you are going to go into the shop there, the little spa, the Oakens Trading Post, which is so cute. All the kids really love it, and you just really get a great view of the themed elements throughout that you can actually touch, feel a little bit. Granted, with the coronavirus now, probably won't want to do that as much, but um, I just absolutely love how this makes you feel. The trees that are there, the bushes, just makes you really feel like you are outside in Arendelle while waiting in line. Now, this ride in itself is also one of my favorites. I do really enjoy it. It's hard sometimes to always get on it because of how long this line can be at times. But definitely, if you can get a fast pass for this, I would say do it. Your kids will absolutely love it. Now, I personally love this ride too because it was the original as Maelstrom, and Maelstrom was one of my favorites, especially when you go backwards. But what a great element that they do for Elsa and Let It Go. And that's my favorite part there, where you start going backwards and you have the dry ice coming down, the cooling element there. Just, I don't know, a really fun ride if you can get on and the wait isn't too long. So definitely Frozen as my number three. Now, my number two may surprise some people that this is not my number one. And while I do love this ride, couldn't make it into my top space, but my number two is Soarin'. And I do really, really love Soarin'. Now, Soarin' isn't my favorite for the fact too of how long this line can be at times. And now this queue is, I'm sorry, one of the worst. It is it is long, it is gray. I appreciate that they tried to put some interactive element into this. by asking you trivia questions based off of things around the world. Thank you for trying Disney, but still, like, let's be honest with ourselves. If you don't have a fast pass and this line is long, oof, like you are going to be bored. It is what it is. But I do, once you get on that ride, oh, what a fun ride. Um, Now, please, if this is your first time going on Soarin' or you don't go on it often, please make sure to ask the cast member to see or to sit in B section, preferably the top row. Um, if you don't get to go to Disney often, please don't sit in A or C because that Eiffel Tower may be a little off for you, maybe leaning a little bit more than what you think it should be, just based off of how the screen is and everything like that. The image kind of gets messed up a little bit. Um, so definitely try and sit in the B section if you can, preferably that top row too, so that you don't have some bare feet over on top of you. That's one thing that is upsetting to me about this ride, especially people have flip-flops on and they have to take off their flip-flops and leave them on the ground. Then you have some bare feet over on top of you. So maybe if there wasn't a bare feet on top over top of you situation, it may be my number one, but sometimes I just can't get over that. So but no, the Soarin' is just so much fun. The way that it makes you feel like you are flying in the air. I really appreciate the smells that are in with this ride. And I will admit, I actually own a lot of these smells from Magic Candle Company, which I want to do a whole video in of itself about Magic Candle Company and just how amazing they are. But the smells on Soarin', absolutely amazing. And sometimes I think that's what really makes this ride. Granted, my one friend who I go with all the time, she actually cannot smell, and I think this may be her favorite ride at Epcot. So maybe to some the smells don't matter as much, but in my personal opinion, the smells are what do it for me to get into my second spot there. So it is time for my number one, and my number one is probably the last thing left. Well, there's one other ride, but didn't even make it on my list. But my number one is Spaceship Earth. So I absolutely love Spaceship Earth. I love there's just so many things that I love about it. I actually love the ride vehicle. Um, I love how it's interactive. You get your picture taken. You go through time. Just all the animatronics that they have there. Also, the smells on this ride, I really appreciate. Now, granted, I really enjoy history, so that may be why it also has a soft spot in my heart. But just going throughout time and then seeing our Earth, seeing that dome from high up above, being in that ball too, just how cool is that? And then descending backwards. I think it's a lot of fun. And then getting to interact with your future and seeing what comes about there, I just really love. Now, granted, this ride is supposed to be undergoing refurbishment. And we were hearing that it was going to be under construction while the quarantine was happening. Now, this morning, I read something from the DFB guide, which I absolutely love. Please go check them out if you haven't already. And they actually quoted from the Orlando Sentinel that this ride's refurbishment, excuse me, may be no longer happening in regards because of all the construction that they already have happening there. So a little of me is happy about that because I love me some Dame Judi Dench and everything in regards to Spaceship Earth, but at the same time, it would be nice to have a little bit of an update. So either way, I will be happy. So yes, my number one is Spaceship Earth. So I do have a couple here that I do want to point out that the other ride that I was mentioning before is Mission Space. Now, I love anything to do with space personally, but this ride's a little too much for me in my stomach. So if you do not get nauseous very easily, please go check this ride out. It's very, very cool in regards to how immersive this is. They've actually had actual astronauts, excuse me, ride this ride, and they say that this is the closest thing to going into space. So, how cool is that? That we are able to experience that. Now, it seems like I would not be a good astronaut because I cannot even take the green section, which is the easy section. So, that was just one of my honorable mentions there was mission space. And two, this list will probably change in the future once we get the new Ratatouille ride, which I am so excited for. I already know that it will be on my top 10 list based off of just everything that I've heard and watched in regards to this. And also the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster. I'm really looking forward to that as well. So, both of these I'm sure will be absolutely amazing. And who knows, once they are both here and we've given those some time, maybe even an updated Spaceship Earth, I may have to redo this in the long run. But that's what's great about Disney. They are always um, trying to update things, give us new experiences to enjoy. They never want it to seem like they're just keeping things around just because they built it before. So I just really appreciate that from them. Even though it may be hard at times to get rid of some of our favorites, you know that there's always going to be better things along the way, thanks to just all the Imagineers there and the cast members. So I'm very excited for the future Epcot that is coming. Um, but until then, thank you so very much for listening to this podcast. Please leave me a comment below if you have any topics that you would like me to discuss or any suggestions. I am open to anything. And I just really want to say thank you for listening to this podcast since I am just starting out. So thank you in advance. And I look forward to our next episode together. Bye bye.